Welcome to Lift the Gate with Lift Business Resources, the interview series that's all about opening the doors to knowledge and sharing the tools you need to elevate your business. I'm your host, Katie Santoro, and I'm thrilled to have you here. This series is designed for business owners like you who are eager to learn, grow, and navigate the challenges of running a successful business with confidence and clarity. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Casey Jourdan. As a coach and content creator, Casey guides late diagnosis ADHD women towards building lives that actually work for them. With a master's in rehabilitation and mental health counseling and her own journey with ADHD, PTSD, and a traumatic brain injury, she brings both professional expertise and lived experience to her work. Her mission: to help people create and celebrate their authentic selves, free from society's heavy-handed expectations. She walks with her clients to heal their past, reframe their present, and carve out a new path forward. Casey, welcome. I'm so excited about this call today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you and I connected through a networking group, and on our first call, we started talking about what you did, and I just found it so interesting. I think that even if you're not affected by ADHD yourself, someone in your life is. I know lots of
Yes.
people in my sphere have been diagnosed with it, and I have to be aware of that in the way that I communicate and my expectations for them and how they process the information. So I love this topic. And one of the things that you and I talked about first was kind of this like late stage diagnosis or like later
Mhm.
in life diagnosis for women in particular with ADHD. So
Yeah.
let's just kind of dive in. Like, why do you think that's happening now? And how does receiving that diagnosis later in life impact professional and personal lives?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, the 80s, ADHD was kind of a boys only disorder. And even this misperception that like you would grow out of it. And so girls just never got diagnosed. It was very uncommon back in the 80s, 90s, even 2000, early 2000s that like young women would get diagnosed. And so then once you're in adulthood, they're like, oh, you're an adult, you're fine. It couldn't be ADHD. It's anxiety, especially for women. That's like the number one. Every client I have has been diagnosed with anxiety at some point. And so there's this shift happening, and I see the shift. A lot of it is TikTok and the pandemic. I think was an
Mm,
eye-opening moment for a lot of people when all of a sudden they were ripped out of their office structures, and so like they had systems that worked unknowingly. Our nervous system wants to be in a place that feels safe. So unknowingly, we build these routines and systems, and we know how to deal with the pressure of a manager coming by our desk every day and how to pretend like we're working hard. And so like we don't realize how it's showing up. And then all of a sudden we're working from home. So there's all the distractions of home. There is no routine or structure around work. And then social media and the ability to communicate and have these conversations. All of a sudden now there's these women, most of my clients are in their 30s to 60s, who are all of a sudden going, oh, something's not right. What's going on? And diving into it, spending the time on TikTok, the TikTok algorithm has diagnosed
it's a good
plenty of
one.
folks. Yep,
Uh-huh.
it's a good one. And they kind of come to this realization, and a lot of them, I think for a lot of my women, like they end up getting formally diagnosed because they need that validation because they've been told their whole life they're just anxious, or they're just busy, or they're just loud, or they're just pushy, or quirky, or whatever other stereotype. And so they get that formal diagnosis. And then there's this two things happen. There is like multitudes of things happen when you realize this. There is this grief of like, what could my life have been if I'd known this all along? Like, everything didn't have to be so hard. What if I'd had support and systems all along? So there's this like past processing. There's reliving every awkward moment that you've ever had in your entire life
Mhm.
now through this lens of ADHD. And you're like, oh, I'm not a weirdo. I just have ADHD. Like, that's why I show up the way I do in social settings. So there's all this new self actualization. And then usually there's kind of a like high. And so the first like 3 months to a year, most of the people I talk to, they're like, this is great. I have it figured out. Like, this was the answer I was looking for. Life is perfect now. And then life keeps lifing and they hit this wall and they're like, wait, how do I live with this? Now that I have this knowledge, I don't know how to change what I've been doing for 40 years. And so that's a lot of times when they end up at my doorstep. And where I specialize is kind of helping them unprocess that shame and grief and all the social expectations. A lot of my clients are entrepreneurs. So, like all of the hustle culture, entrepreneur productivity nonsense. And also then like rebuilding all of their systems and strategies, routines, boundaries, communication skills with that new lens so that they can get back to a place where they feel in control of their life, their body, and everything.
Yeah, and thinking about like those structures that have to be rebuilt, or like thinking about losing those structures. So when we all came
Yeah.
home from the pandemic and we were like, oh shoot, like we have no structure. I feel like women in particular, when you look at how the household is run, we're the people who build those structures. We are the
Yes.
organizers. We handle the calendar. We help keep the kids in line. So do you think, and I think the answer is yes, but do you think that the struggle is almost harder for women in like that mom, mother, business owner role versus a man who's been diagnosed, probably has been on Adderall since he was in high school? And
Yes.
so I feel like there's more pressure here on women.
Absolutely. Yeah. The social expectations of having your stuff together, all of the added kind of, like you were saying, all the added weight that we carry, emotional burden that we carry in running the household, and decades of masking, of hiding that from everybody to try to make it look as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely more weight for the late diet for any
Yeah.
woman with ADHD, but especially those late diagnosed ones.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're dying inside and we just need some Adderall, like,
Yes,
or some coaching or some
exactly.
therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some sort of support. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So with like entrepreneurs in general, what are the biggest challenges that they face in like managing their business, and then in knowing that late stage diagnosis and then trying to like course correct? Like what kind of mistakes are made there?
The number one mistake I see is the comparison and trying to build your business to the model of neurotypical brains.
Mhm.
So I should be in my office 9 to 5, or as an entrepreneur, I should be willing to work 20 hours a day because I love this so much. And uh, which
You just need to
that's
let
what's,
go. We need to let go
yes,
of the hustle culture. Like that's one of the first
exactly.
things I did in my business was like,
Yes.
I'm not going to work 60 hours a week. And if
Yep,
I'm
absolutely
not as
not.
successful, then I adjust my life, take a little
Yep,
time and
exactly.
have some happiness.
Exactly. And so like that's the big one, is trying to find the apps for managing clients and like content, social media. You should have a content calendar, and like you should plan 3 months in advance. Like ADHDers don't work like that for the most part. And so trying to business feels so incredibly difficult because of the structures they're trying to create. And so as soon as we start to undo that and we start to work with like your natural energy patterns, I have a client who works from like 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. because that's what fits her energy and her life. Her kids get off school and she just sits and hangs out with them while they do homework. And like, I'm a morning person and a late afternoon person. Middle of the day, I take like 3 or 4 hours for lunch, my lunch hour,
Yeah.
because that's what works for my energy flow. And so, yeah, it's the figuring out what systems work for you, regardless of what society is telling you, regardless of what all of the services are trying to sell you. For a lot of ADHDers, simple is better.
Mhm.
And we're trying to get more complex to create more control. And then we feel overwhelmed and we ditch system after system after system and we feel like a failure,
Mhm.
versus like pare it down, get real simple, figure out what feels real good. And then if we need to, based on like growth in your business, then we can build tools back up that have what you need for a more complex business or whatever.
And Casey, I think that that advice doesn't just apply to somebody with
Yes.
ADHD. I think it applies to all of us, right? Like
Yeah.
keep it simple. You don't have to do the newest, latest, greatest program
Yes.
that's out there.
Yeah.
Let's just touch on content calendars real quick because I am a fan of calendars and planning out for months and months and months, and that's just how my brain works. It drives my family crazy. You should see the
Yep.
organization in the freezer and how much they hate me for it. But like, we've got to have these meals planned out for the next year. So
Right.
tell me what are you seeing people do besides that content calendar? Give us like your inside tip on
Do
it.
what feels, and you're gonna get annoyed hearing me say this, but do what feels right for you.
Right.
So and it doesn't, the real insider tip is it doesn't have to be the same thing week over week or month over month.
Mhm.
Some months, on the first of the month, I plan the whole month. I film all the content. Like my content is done for the entire month by the second.
Mhm.
Some months I am making that stuff up day by day and
Mhm.
running my business on a wing and a prayer. Like so giving myself that grace
Yes.
that it's not always a singular answer for me. And so I have a content calendar that
Mhm.
exists. I never buy anything that's dated. If I have like paper planners, they're never dated paper planners. So I can jump in and out of it as I need. If that's what my brain wants this
I
week,
like that.
it's there, it exists. I love my system and I can plug right into it.
Hmm.
And then sometimes I am passionate about something or I'm on a tangent or, I just run with it for a while and then I can come back to it. And I always save all that stuff too. I have a folder in my Google Drive that has like 18 different content calendars in it that
Hmm.
were all past efforts. That is a bank of beautiful ideas instead of
Hmm.
a lot of ADHDers like that is this like shame graveyard of failed systems.
Uh-huh.
No, that's like that is a bank full of great ideas. And so save it, come back and grab what you need from it. Don't feel bad if the system wasn't right for you.
So you're really like removing the time and date constraints from it
Yes.
to free
Yep.
yourself, but then also removing the shame from it and knowing that,
Yeah.
like reframing it, right? These aren't failed
Yeah.
experiences. These are lessons and more ideas. I like
Yeah. And experiments. I have another
that.
client right now, and she was watching, there's a creator she loves, and she's like, her reels are so edited. And she found out that this creator actually like storyboards all of her videos. And she started beating herself up. She's like, I should be doing that. And like, oh my gosh. I'm like, is that you? And she's like, no, I would hate to do that. And I'm like, then why are you putting that pressure on yourself?
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, I think I want to try it for like maybe one or two special videos a month where I want to hit a really important thing or I want to do a difference. Perfect. Try it and see what you think. If you love it, do more of it. If you hate it, don't ever do it again.
Did she hate it?
We haven't tried yet. This was actually
Okay.
literally yesterday's
All
coaching
right.
call.
Okay. Report back
We're
because
I
I feel
will.
like the answer is going to be like, I hated it.
Yeah, that's my guess too. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to last long.
But you got to try, right?
Yes, there's no
Yeah.
harm in trying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like those are the struggles, right? With the focus and the organization that comes with
Yeah.
ADHD. But I know from everybody in my household having it, there are so many like unique strengths. So let's talk about those and how that can really be leaned into to be an advantage for business owners.
Yeah. And like the first is figuring out your strength. And there's a solid chance you already have an inkling of it, even if you were taught to suppress it. So some people, a lot of the like really big, we call them like connectors, those personalities, the people who know everybody and can remember everybody and like in mid conversation be like, oh, you should meet so and so. That is such a skill that I do not have. But a lot of times that like really gregarious connector gets told to like, oh, be quiet, like shh, like da, da, da. So finding your strength, owning it, and then figuring out where it fits into what it is you're trying to do, whether that's designing your business completely around that. I have a friend whose business literally is being a connector. She's a networker. Like that's all she does is run networking events and connect people to other people. Perfect, beautiful. I like a lot of ADHDers I see, they have this ability to see all of the angles, all the pros, all the cons, outside the box. And that's what I've built my business around. I love teaching and I love seeing the light bulb go off. And so somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm like, great. And they're like, but there's this answer or this answer. I don't like either of those answers. I'm like, oh, actually, there's like 800 answers. Let's explore them. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I could do that way. And I'm like, yeah, let's try that first. And so for me, it was building my business around the chance to get to help people look at all the options. And so, yeah, figuring out what those things are and how can you do more of that because that is going to feel good. You're going to excel at it. It's going to be good for your nervous system. And when all those things align, that's where it gets a lot easier to start making money.
Yeah. Any tips and tricks on how to find that strength?
My favorite is go back and look through your entire life. There's usually a through line. And so, like, regardless of what jobs you've had, because I have done everything from being in the military to painting houses, teaching swim lessons. But one thing I always come back to is teaching. One of my first jobs ever was a junior lifeguard, and I helped the adult lifeguards teach swim lessons to little kids. And again and again, I see teaching a lot of times that teaching showed up for me in the realm of coaching sports. And so like I kept seeing that. And when I do it, those are the jobs I love. Those are the jobs I think of fondly. And so there's probably a through line, even if you've had 1,000 different jobs in a dozen different industries, what's the part? Was it being analytical and building all the systems for every company you worked for? Was it something that was really physically active? Was it the teaching? Was it the connecting? Look for those little through lines and then look at kind of where you're at now and different ways you could bring that through line back to the front.
What if a little bit of that through line, and I'm thinking specifically like physical activity, right? Like that can be really suppressed in today's corporate world. We're not out here like building
Yes.
houses. We're sitting at desks. Like, how do you uncover some of that that has been really pushed down by society and just kind of your environment?
Right. I would then start to probably look outside of work. And
Mhm,
so, what are the things you do in your free time?
mhm.
Even if you can't find the full through line, looking back at what were some of your like favorite memories from life, camp counselor in the summers, even if you only did it for a couple weeks at a time, and looking for those things because the chance are they're still there. Like one of the things that surprises a lot of my clients is your nervous system and your heart know who you are and know what they want.
Mm.
And they're trying to find that. And we keep pushing it down. And that's where we get that cognitive dissonance that makes us hate our job or makes us feel uncomfortable in your skin. So, when are the moments that you're not feeling that? Grab a hold of that and lean into that even more. And so that's kind of like,
You lost me. Hold on one second. I just
yep,
need to plug in my docking station.
okay,
Sorry.
that's
It'll
okay.
pop in a second. There we are. Yay, we're back.
There we
Okay.
go.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So, yeah, so finding those things that make your nervous system feel good or
Mhm,
make your heart feel good and let go of the should. Like a lot of it is getting buried under the should,
mhm.
but every single client, we hit a point in the conversation like, well, I really love doing this, or this felt really good, but I should or I shouldn't. And I'm like, yeah, I loved this period, end of sentence. Find more of that.
Is there a book you might suggest in helping people kind of uncover their strengths?
I think one of the books I really enjoy is Unfollow Your Passion by Terry Trist. I always butcher her last name.
Oh, Google it.
Yes, yeah. And the entire book has to do with like not just following what you're passionate about, but following what is that like feel good thing for you, that like good for your nervous system thing. And because like especially for ADHDers, like our passion can change from day to day. And so like how do you find it's kind of more following that through line than like following the thing that has you on fire at this moment and how that can build a more kind of sustainable long-term vision.
I'm going to add that to my list of self-help books. Um,
Yes.
I have a library of them. Um,
Awesome.
so what are some, like, once we have our ADHD business owner and they are trying to create these strategies, and business strategy often has to look very, very far out. And we did talk a little bit about how, working with your energy and kind of where you are and where your business. But is there like a structure that works for the ADHD brain rather than against it?
That unfortunately is a really customized question because there a lot of times with ADHD there are other components that come in, whether it is short-term like working memory issues or time blindness. And so some of my go-tos when I start with a new client and they're like, I'm struggling, is looking at things a lot. So like every Monday I have a CEO date. Shout out to Rachel Cook, who I learned this from. And I check in with like my to-do list and my client list and my email, my calendar. I look at the whole big picture every Monday and make sure I know where I'm at for the week. Every day I have a thing that has my goals for the quarter on. I look at it every morning. I glance through my quarter goals and see where I'm at. I do quarter goals. But like for me, I have to look at it all the damn time or I will forget about it. And
Right.
so that was the catch for me is not doing the thing, but going back and remember figuring out a system for me to touch back in with the thing.
So, Casey, analog or digital in your to-do list and organizing?
I am 99% digital because I need it to go everywhere with me.
Mhm.
The catch to that is I do sometimes when I'm when I'm a certain level of busy, when I'm a certain level, your routines need to ebb and flow with what your ADHD needs that week. Is sometimes I don't even know how to articulate this. I can't read my digital to-do list. Like my brain won't process it. And so I will actually, on those days, I have a little to-do list like sticky pad that I custom made for myself. So it looks exactly the way I want it to look. And
Mhm.
I will translate the digital onto the sticky note. So it's on my desktop, like literally sitting on my desk all day. So like sometimes I have to pull it analog so that my brain will grab hold of it. But it always gets stored in Todoist or the calendar. It
Mhm.
always goes there first, so I can't lose it.
I love that. I'm a big fan. I have the line sticky notes.
Yes.
Take the sticky note off and like put it in my notebook if I'm going somewhere. But tell me a little bit more about this custom sticky notes. Do you send them out somewhere to be printed? Like I feel like I could
Yeah.
use this.
Yes. So I use a company called Vistaprints. I've used them on and off for decades. They're amazing. Um, they'll give you the template, everything, almost every product they make, there's no minimum order.
Right.
You order less, you pay a little more for it.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, for me, I very specifically wanted to see what are my to-do items today and like what are my appointments. And I don't want to be able to see anything else. And I want to know what my number one priority. If I do one thing today, what one thing makes today successful? And so I designed it and it's got this pretty like orange and pink border on it. So it's like really catchy to my eyes and send it off to Vistaprints, make sure it matches their template. I kind of like go through their custom notepads first and see what size you like. And then I designed it in Canva. I put in a custom size, designed it in Canva, sent it over to them. And a couple weeks later, I got a little stack of these things that work exactly the way my brain needs when it needs that tool.
I love it. I love it. Vistaprint also, you can often find coupons if you just Google
Oh
Vistaprint.
my gosh. Yes.
But I would just say to anybody who's considering this, do not fall trap to you can get 100 for $20 or you can get 6,000 for $25. Like make sure that you like it
Yes.
before you go hard on the order because I've got boxes in my closet of stuff that we ordered and we're like, sure, we could use 400 of them. That is a lot of pieces of
Yes.
paper. So just keep
That is a really good reminder. Yes. I almost fall prey to that because I'm like, if I buy one of these notepads, it's like $15. And if I buy like 20 of them, it's like $18. Like, no. Know that you're gonna pay a little higher price for the one.
right.
That's okay. You
Yeah.
just need one. Yeah.
And make sure it works for you and also
Yeah.
consider where are you storing these things. And if you store them, I did this recently
Yeah.
with some command hooks. I put them somewhere and I was like, this makes so much sense. I have no idea where they're there. No idea. I
Yep.
tore apart the whole house yesterday. That's got to do with my sunroom and my 80 house plants. And I'm like, I know these command hooks are in this sunroom. They're not.
They're
No
not. Yep.
yeah. So think about where you're going to store them and if you'll remember where you put them after
Uh-huh.
800 of them.
Absolutely.
I really love that you create your own to-do list. That is so great.
Yeah.
So this conversation on neurodiversity and ADHD has really evolved. And you are so right on TikTok. Like I have diagnosed myself with so many things on TikTok. If it weren't for TikTok, I wouldn't know that I was in perimenopause and need like medication,
Yes.
right? Which is another, oh my gosh, we could probably have a whole nother call on that
Oh,
layer.
absolutely.
The
Yes.
hormone changes change all of it and how it's completely ignored by modern medicine of what we go through. Um,
Yes.
Not just ADHD, neurodiversity, mental
Yeah.
health problems, all of those things. But what changes would you like to see to better support ADHD and autistic entrepreneurs or neurodivergent entrepreneurs?
The, I love seeing that's already happening is the growing conversations and more business owners who are putting that in their content that are mentioning it like my business is literally built around it. But like you don't have to build your business around that identity. But when you're doing an Instagram story mentioning that you have ADHD, like I do it this way because it works for my autism, just normalizing it in conversation, I think is half the battle.
Mhm.
And then I think there's this ongoing, I want more people to understand, and we kind of touched on this, I think before we even started recording, like even if you don't have ADHD or autism, like you are interacting with somebody who has some flavor or combination of neurodivergence, understanding a little bit about them, being willing to ask questions, being willing to shift how you have conversations a little bit with them. My husband is amazing. We've been moving house, which is really hard on my ADHD because all of my systems are literally in boxes right now. And I have cried more than once in the last week. And he knows not to panic anymore. It's taken some years to train him on this, but like he knows what to say to help calm me down. He knows the things that will help reset me. So he can be like, hey, how about you go do this and I will take care of the rest of this.
Mhm.
And being able to just have these conversations honestly and learn how to communicate and support in a variety of different ways,
Mhm.
game changer for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think as a leader, and I was going to ask, like, how do leaders kind of support people? You definitely touched on it. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot is feedback and asking for giving and receiving feedback, because feedback isn't always the easiest to receive. But after going through something, like take it to the personal level, but a move, right? Hopefully you don't
Mhm.
have to redo that move ever again, but debriefing what happened. So
Yeah.
taking yourself out of the moment of crying and being upset, afterwards saying, this is why I was upset and this is how you can best support me. And then as a leader,
Yes.
debriefing that and saying, hey, I noticed, while we were going through this push to get our content out, you struggled in a couple places. Let's talk about that. How can I
Yes.
support you going forward on what you need?
I
I
love
think
that. Yeah.
leadership, in the corporate world, people often get promoted because they're good at what they do,
Mhm.
not because they're good at leading people. So you end up with
Yes.
leaders who are technically good at their job, but just suck at dealing with people and personalities and any kind of neurodivergence or
Yes.
divergence from what they think is normal.
Yeah.
So I think there's also a leadership aspect here.
100%. I love the debrief thing. Like that's get outside of the emotional moment to have these conversations makes it so much easier than trying to force it in the moment. And also with that, like in that leadership role, or if you're the person outside the neurodivergence, maybe like you don't have to understand the accommodation to support the accommodation.
Yes.
There are little things like being allowed to have a fidget toy in a meeting that a lot of my clients who are in corporate settings, they're not allowed to because it's unprofessional and you're not paying attention. But if they don't have a fidget or doodle or have a client who actually sits in the middle of the like back of her conferences, like knitting, if we're not doing something with our hands, we can't pay attention. And
Mhm.
so you don't have to understand it to support it. And so if they say, hey, can I have a fidget for this thing? Hey, can I have, can I stand in the back of the office during meetings instead of sitting in a chair? Okay, give it a try. If it's not distracting to everybody else,
Yeah.
let's try
And I just want to put it out there. If it's distracting other people, that's their issue. Like they need to
it.
figure out why they're so distracted by somebody standing up
Yes.
or like using a fidget thing. Maybe they could
Yeah.
divert their eyes to something else.
Yes.
They should be paying
Right.
attention to the presentation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's take a little ownership here. Um,
Right.
awesome. I just love what you're doing so much. Can you share like one of your favorite success stories in working with an individual and how they were able to kind of shift how they ran their business?
Yeah. So one of my longest running clients, she's a photographer by trade. When we first met, she had not even like opened her email, like her inbox, in a couple of months because she had so much anxiety around it from this like snowball of ADHD and shame and guilt and like screw it if I just they can't yell at me if I never read the emails and she'd kind of shut down around it. And we figured out how to work through that in a way that she can now check her emails. We're actually still tinkering with this. Like I said, some of this stuff takes trial and error. We're changing the systems around like when and where and how she opens email, when and where and how she communicates with clients. We're changing some front end communication to hopefully avoid even getting a certain set of emails that she's been routinely getting. Like, and it's been so interesting to watch something as quote unquote simple as checking your email completely change the face of her business and completely change her confidence in herself. Like it used to be, she would be almost in tears when she would check in with me. And she's like, I checked my email and only two people yelled at me. And now she'll message me. She's like, hey, email's done. I'm on my way out the door. Somebody was a jerk in my emails and I sent him this snappy comeback. And I'm like, I love it. Like,
Love it.
and it was just understanding why that type of communication was really hard for her flavor of neurodivergence and how we could create a system that like took her out of the inbox and moved her like into a to-do list or
Mhm.
moved her into some answers she could copy and paste. So she wasn't having to constantly like think through these things that she's repeating herself on all the time, anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just making email easier to check has made her more confident across the face of her business. Her clients are happier, like everything is working better because she can check her email now.
And shameless plug here, but executive assistant or a virtual assistant is they can help you with that. They can help you
Yes.
sort through it and create those filters. And
Yeah.
I create filters so that I'm not seeing things that I know are going to derail my day. They go into a folder and I look at them when I'm ready to look at them. Like
Yes.
something that an executive assistant can help with if you have the time to work with them. So awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way. Like that, there is a tool for your ADHD. Instead of trying to build the system yourself, like go to somebody who's really good at doing this stuff, ramble, like this is all the problems I'm having with my email, and
Mhm.
let them help piece it
Yeah.
together for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them
I love
organize. I
that.
know one of
Yep.
I'm over process oriented, which is probably
Uh-huh.
why I do what I do, right? Like I love a process. I love an organization. And
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier, my freezer in my house is very like organized and there's a process behind all of the meal planning and the family doesn't get it, but I take that on because it's easy for me and I love doing it and nobody else has to worry about getting it
Yep.
done. So
Exactly. Yeah.
a virtual assistant can work in kind of the same way. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So Casey, thank you so much for your time today. I've loved this
Yep.
conversation. I've learned a lot. I think it will help me be a better leader and support my team better. But tell me where people can find you. Where can people?
The easiest place to find me is caseyjordan.com/hello.
Okay. And
And
spell
there
your last name because it's
it is unique. Yes, so it's CASEYJOURDAN
very
dot com.
European of you to just throw in an extra U.
Yes,
Yeah.
I threaten my husband every time he annoys me that I'm going to change my last name and spell it the right way. Just drop the U.
I love it. I love it.
So yeah, everything you need is there. There is all my social email, all my social media, my email, links to some tools. I have some life and business audits that can help you kind of check how ADHD aligned things are for you and where you could maybe highlight some first changes. Everything you want to know about me is at that caseyjordan.com/hello.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope to have another conversation with you in the future about this a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Thanks so
Thanks.
much.